Roll call.
Parker, Miscelinich.
Here.
Olson,
Here.
Zittergruen,
Here.
Chisel,
Here.
Whittle,
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Any public comment for an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Please come forward.
We just want to talk about the car show quick, Cops Runners car show for this year.
Chopper,
We have,
can you grab the podium?
we have that tentatively scheduled for May 17th. Got the permit in for it. There was a missing component that I did this morning. Is this thing on?
Yep.
All right. So May 17th works out in our favor this year. It is the weekend after Mother's Day.
Okay.
It is the day before Decorah High School graduation, and then Luther graduation is the following weekend. So we should alleviate a lot of the issues we had last year. So again, it's just in the permitting process of it right now. It's up for review, but if there's any concerns or questions that you guys have on it, we can answer it. We're just in the very beginning stages of the planning. It's, as far as we know, it's basically gonna be wash, rinse, repeat of last year as far as the street closures and stuff like that. We've talked about alternative locations, such as Claiborne Drive or Main Street, but we're hoping with the change in dates this year with the graduations that we should alleviate all that. So hopefully that works out in our favor.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on it that we can answer for you right now?
No, but thanks for bringing it to us now. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you guys trying to work the dates out so it works out
Yeah.
better.
Well,
Appreciate it.
and the date is coincides with National Police Week, is how we try
Right.
and tie it all
Right,
together,
right.
so. And if we have to continue moving that in the future, we can do that, so. That's all we got for now. We'll wait for the permitting to get done, and then, or you guys will talk about it next meeting, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
Anyone else? Okay, consent agenda. Item A, minutes of the January 21, 2025 meeting. Item B, claims. C, Class E retail alcohol license renewal for Hy-Vee stores. D, Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service renewal for T-Box Sports Bar and Grill. E, tax abatement for Hearthside Fireplaces and More at 802 Commerce Drive, Wren Properties LLC.
I move the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Zittergruen, seconded by Neal. Roll call.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Item 5, consider Decorah Jobs funding support request. Travis, could we get some background, please?
Yes, so the city's received a request from Decorah Jobs for funding to support an application for a USDA Rural Business Development Grant. This used to be called the RBEG program. This would provide technical assistance in planning associated with a residential project on the former Sunflower property that Decorah Jobs purchased. Jobs is requesting $60,000 of city funding towards a $100,000 grant match for that application. Decorah Jobs would make up the rest of that $100,000. Staff would recommend that any award be considered or be done out of potentially sustainability funds, portion of the electric franchise fee revenues.
I make a motion to support the $60,000 worth of city funding and to use them out of sustainability.
Second.
It's been moved by Neal, seconded by Olson. Discussion?
I just want to clarify and make sure we're all on the same page. This 60,000 would only be a city commitment if the grant was successful.
Correct, yeah, it'd be pledging the match to the grant application.
Do we have any further, totally support, I think this is great. I think it's a great use of sustainability dollars. I also think it's just a great match and great partnership. I'm just curious if we have more information about what the grant's gonna look like and what it will entail.
So we do have Stephanie Fromm, if, Randy, if you want to allow.
Yes. Yep. Please, let us know what's going on.
Hey, so we have yet to start writing it, but just the rough outline of the grant so far. It'll just be mostly for technical assistance. So, you know, as a board, we haven't decided what the parcel will look like, and it's going to take a little bit of work kind of leading up to what that will eventually look like. But it is zoned R3 residential. It's a great opportunity for infill. Decorah Jobs saw it as a sort of a gem, right? So we kind of, put in a competitive bid when it did come up for sale. In terms of items that the grant would actually be used for, it could be used for architectural cost, design costs. What we're looking at doing is maybe entering an agreement with a civil engineer to sort of figure out how the access will work, how the layout is going to work, and then ultimately, how we get utilities buried. So there's a lot of moving parts to that, and so we're hoping to take this next calendar year to flush all of that out using these grant funds if we're awarded.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just, thanks Stephanie. I sit on jobs and appreciate the chance to be involved in the work jobs has done. I want to call council's attention to all the ways in which Jobs, as our economic development partner, has accomplished a lot of city goals recently, especially with the child care center. I don't know about you all, but just the other day I was in a conversation with some parents of young kids who were talking about the old days when it was hard to find child care slots in the community, and people were driving into Minnesota and Wisconsin sometimes to find child care. And obviously it's not easy, it's not without cost or difficulty for everyone in the community to find childcare, but things have improved a great deal, and largely because of the leadership of Decorah Jobs and Stephanie and Maddie's work in particular. So we are so profoundly grateful for the ways in which you've been a partner to us, accomplishing those goals and jobs goals for the community, economic development in terms of attracting and retaining businesses. But I think it's really good for the community that we're turning our attention as economic development people to Decorah's number one need right now, the bottleneck that stops a lot of what this community can be, accomplishing in the next 20 years is looking at housing and making housing more accessible to people. So really glad to be on the initial stages of this partnership with you and looking forward to where this goes. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call?
Neal,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Ms. Lenich.
Aye.
Okay. Item 6, consider ordinance on amending section 17.36.020 of the Decorah Municipal Code regarding site plans. Second reading. Travis, want to refresh your memory, please?
Yep. So currently 17.36.020 requires any development greater than a duplex be required to submit a site plan review. This came up during the Quandall Homes application on Washington Street, which was a fourplex. It has to go through the same site plan requirements as a Walmart, for example. So the premise behind this, increase the threshold, making it easier for a fourplex, threeplex to be able to either be constructed or developed here in Decorah. That's the proposed change, increasing the threshold from 2 to 4.
I move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved by Zittergren, seconded by Olson. Have we had any comment at City Hall?
No.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call?
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Ms. Lenich.
Aye.
Hey, Mayor, Pro Tem, may I move to waive the third reading and adopt?
I would second. Roll call?
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Ms. Lenich,
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Okay, that's gonna be on the books. All right. Item 7, consider professional services agreement with WHKS and Company for improvements to College Drive. Little background, please.
So council's talked about this a couple of times, the intersection with Hively Street and College Drive. So the proposed professional service agreement with WHKS would provide analysis of that intersection. This PSA exceeds my purchase authority. That's why it's on here as an agenda item. Anything above 10,000 that's not identified as a capital improvement project during the budgeting discussion requires your approval. So the scope of services include conducting traffic counts at the intersection, providing analysis on that traffic signal warrant. So if the traffic counts do necessitate, they'll tell us that. If they don't necessitate, but it's on the line, they'll tell us that. And ultimately, it is up to council to determine whether we want to keep that or not. Would also include the rectangular rapid flashing beacon warrant. Analyzing that, they would provide associated cost estimates for those warrants and any alternatives that they identify for the intersection. Contract fees for a lump sum of $13,600, including expenses.
Motion to approve the agreement with WHKS Company?
Second.
Okay, moved by Olson, seconded by Whittle. Council discussion?
Can we create a press release on this and explain to the community what it is we're looking for, when we're doing it, how we're doing it, why we're doing it? This past weekend, I got a lot of questions on this and a lot of concerns about, you're getting rid of 2 stoplights and you're getting it. So if we could do a press release, it just explains this is a trial and what we're looking for, it'd be really helpful.
Yeah, so we'll probably look at issuing a written one with a little bit more detail from WHKS once we hammer in. Again, we talked about implementation would be at least the first traffic count set up this month. So now that Luther's back in session, we've got typical traffic flows. I see Darren online, so I'll make sure that we bring this up in our town interview. We'll talk a bit about this scope as well. But yeah, we will issue one, hopefully have a little bit more details filled in.
Okay, I think it'd just be good for the public to know that we haven't made any final decision, that this is a study. And
Okay, roll call?
Olson,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Misselinich,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Item 8, discussion and possible action on council rules of procedure.
Okay, so at the January 21st council meeting, the council discussed some possible amendments to the rules of procedure. The results of that discussion have been drafted together as Dropbox file 008A and include changes to the rules regarding comments to the public, motion to reconsider, and that additional suspension of rules.
Motion to approve the council rules, changes we made?
I'll second it for discussion.
Didn't we decide to also include in our rules that anytime a new council member took a seat, we could bring back a,
Yep, that's part of the changes in the motion to reconsider.
We have it in there.
I think
did I
it's,
not see 'em?
Number 3,
yeah.
I like-
under once in
Oh,
action,
yeah. Sorry,
reconsider.
totally missed that earlier. Thank you.
And also, within that same, to provide clarification, instead of the majority vote, we actually have had an example where we had 5 council members at the dais, where a majority of those present, 3, voted in favor, 2 voted no. Well, we failed to reach 4 required for a pass, so no was the winning vote. So we clarified and said, no, it's the prevailing side, not the majority side of a vote.
Do others feel as if the proposed rules on comments from the public match our conversations from a couple weeks ago?
So I will take this opportunity. I think what Stephen's getting at is both John and I did caution council members, whether it's the mayor or mayor pro tem especially, it's going to require them to make a judgment call on whether it's something that is actually reaching to the level of disruptive of the meeting. So it can't just be, I don't like what they're saying, or what they're saying is directed to, even if it's directed to one individual council member, that's still pretty tough to go ahead and jump in and say, enough conversation. or not even conversation, enough of you speaking. So would still really caution that if anyone tries to exercise that rule, be careful.
I like that it says and shall announce any such time prior to the public comment. So it's not during public comment that time change would happen. It would, you'd look at the room and say, we're gonna do 2 minutes. I like that, how it's written in here.
Yeah, that's in there too.
Yeah.
I was more referring to the language of, kind of like decorum-based
Right.
language that's in there.
Inappropriate, combative, obscene type
Correct,
things, right?
yeah.
John, do you
Straightforward.
think that this is content neutral enough to pass muster with, it talks about the need to,
You're talking,
stay on topic in terms of city business to avoid addressing remarks to members specifically, but I feel like that stands at odds with what you've advised us in terms of what the law requires us to permit.
yeah, I don't remember if that was discussed much last time, but regardless, I would always encourage you to probably let the time run out. But if people are, I think there is some discretion. Because this is your meeting, and if somebody is talking about something completely irrelevant to the city of Decorah, I do think that there could be some, I do think it could be First Amendment permissible to limit their speaking. As opposed to my concern before about the courteous demeanor of people, that, and if they're talking about a city council member, whether you like what they say or not, whether it's discourteous, it is about something affecting the city. So that's why I'm more concerned about limiting somebody's speech if it has anything to do with the city, versus if somebody gets up here and starts talking about a baseball score in California. That's a waste of everybody's time, right? And time is precious. Time is money. So I do think, again, my preference is let the time run out. Give them the 2 minutes or 3 minutes. But if we have 20 people getting up here and they're all talking about, reading the phone book from Los Angeles, that has nothing to do with the city, and you should be able to prohibit that.
Okay. I see
Is
that.
I'm trying to give
No, that's helpful.
exaggerated examples.
And I see that reflected in the rules that are drafted. Then I guess I only have, it sounds like that's pretty content neutral. I know that we established that as a goal that I believe 2 weeks ago, if I'm remembering correctly, we all sort of had agreed that we want, to allow people to say their mind in general, that's kind of where we fall. I guess my other question for the council then is we discussed the possibility of response if individuals were mentioned. And my last comment before I turn it over for kind of those questions to be discussed by others is, do we want to address residency of people who talk? And I'm only asking this question in relation to comments we heard from the public that suggested that the city may not be as interested in hearing from people who live outside of the community. I'll share my perspective on that. I think in general we should allow people to talk to us until it becomes a major problem, and I don't feel like it has become a problem for us to have people who aren't residents of the city speak. So my inclination is to hear from people still, but I know that came up, and I want to make sure we're making this choice on purpose.
I think in reference to that, Steve, I think, there might be times when it's relevant to hear from people that live outside of our community and stuff like that. So I'm in agreement with you as well, that we need to hear from people from outside the community.
If it pertains to city business,
Right.
because within that 2-mile radius too, we
Right.
can have a yay or a nay on things that go on, so I don't see why
Right.
not. Now, if it becomes repetitive, where week after week, we get the same person talking about the same thing over and over, like John said, at that point, we should be able to shut it down.
Yeah, that should be to the
I mean, once
discretion.
it's on the record, do we have to listen to it 3 weeks in a row on the record?
If it's about city business, I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's about city business.
Okay.
And again, that's where I draw that line with something that's about some other location that has absolutely nothing to do with the city of Decorah. But if the same person comes up and says the same thing week over week, I think you gotta let them, under these rules, the way that they're drafted.
All right.
And as far as your other topic you brought up, Steve, as far as discussion back and forth between council and the person that's, I think that should be maybe left up to the mayor, mayor pro tem, who's ever running the meeting, but I think we should probably try to avoid that at all costs. Because it shouldn't be a time to get into a big discussion between people, I don't think.
I was the one who brought that up, and so I want to be clear. I also believe that anyone who wants to come and speak at a council meeting should be able to speak. I don't think we should limit it to people in Decorah. Although I think as public officials, we should recognize when people from outside of Decorah are telling us something to do and people in Decorah are telling us something to do, and those two things are different. Like, we serve the people of Decorah, and I do hope as public officials we take that into consideration. I feel, because I think more than just our meetings, I'm thinking about the recent park board meeting. I was really frustrated by some of the things that happened, because I felt like, wait a minute, we have a constituency that we are beholden to, and I think we have to keep that in mind. But I also brought up last time, I do think that if a council member is being attacked, if the mayor or the mayor pro tem doesn't step in, that the council member should have a right to be able to offer up a different opinion or offer an explanation or at least defend themselves. I don't think it's fair that the public record will reflect an attack on a council member without them also being able to say something in return. I mean, I will say, speaking for myself, as a council member who's been attacked 3 times by one individual in my 6 years on here, most of the time I don't say anything, but there have been 2 times that were, quite honestly, bold-faced lies, and what happens is that will get printed, but nothing I say, and that's frustrating, or heard, by the public. People watch these meetings, so people hear them, and, someone can stand here and say, you said this, you said that, and you can be like, I never said those things. I feel like we should have the right to say
that. I'm new to this, and I'm getting my footing on the decorum of everything, but I do believe that there should be the possibility to, what Emily just said, to at least not in necessarily a back and forth or an acknowledgement of what the person is saying, but a way of standing up for yourself in some regard.
Are you thinking like a number 8, that after all public comment, a city council member can comment on the public comment? I mean, is that?
We really don't have anything to address.
Yeah, we
now,
could
do we?
say in extreme circumstances, the city council may choose to clear up misrepresentations or something, or.
Well, be careful about saying city council.
Oh,
because
a
that.
council member may choose to clear up any falsities, misconceptions.
Well, I think you want to stay away from that, because one.
There is truth in the word.
Well, I understand, but I don't think you want to go down that road, what's true and what's not there, as far as your limitation on correcting inaccuracies is my concern, because then somebody says you're inaccurate, and then it's never ending. I mean, I think, you could put number 8, something to the effect of, if this is what you're thinking about, after all public comment, a council member may respond to any of the public comment? Is that what people are thinking about?
Or in rare instances, a council member may choose to respond if being attacked, or respond if something is so blatant.
I guess.
Isn't that something that you can do at the end of the meeting when we have our closing thoughts? that
Well,
you can
I
correct
was wondering
yourself?
about that too, because that is an opportunity
Right.
for council members.
There's 2 problems with that. One is that oftentimes someone doesn't stick around till the end. 2, that is not then directly associated with whatever the person said. So As I said, this isn't just in recent events, but I recall a very contentious, slanderous moment in the flag policy debate that had I not been able to stand up for myself, and I honestly think it should have been the mayor, but it wasn't. And in that regard, I think it's important, and there is truth. Like, there are things that are true. And if someone is literally saying something to you that is not true, putting it out there into the public space, where you can like hold up a document and say like, this is not true. Take, for example, the ethics committee, right? So Tom Hansen sitting here accusing me of, being in violation of Iowa ethics code, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't. There was proof that I wasn't. They had been consulted and I wasn't. And I felt like I should be able at that moment to clear the record.
I don't think it's going to help us out to get too specific on things that have happened in the past, because we're trying to create good rules for the future. And so my suggestion is this. We take that line that's in the introductory statement that says the public comment period is not a time for dialogue, and we say that that's the standard rule. So like number 8 now says something like, while the public comment period is not ordinarily a time for dialogue, the mayor may at their discretion occasionally allow council members who were individually mentioned in public comments the opportunity for a response. Something like that. I feel like that reflects what we talked about 2 weeks ago. Whether we want to just let staff come back with suggested wording to accomplish that, or we want to try to amend this now.
Why not make it simpler in terms of the public comment period is not a time for dialogue. However, an individual council member may at times feel it appropriate to make a statement or I think about last week, right, where we have this person coming to us with a really good idea. We're all excited.
Yeah.
Should we sit here and do nothing, or can we say like, great idea, email me, let's take that offline? That's a response, right? I mean, we responded.
If I might offer, along the lines of keeping it simple, some communities actually have a different order, the way their council agenda runs. Not that I'm proposing we move public comment towards the end, but instead, we could move the council report portion to one of the first items on the agenda following public comment. So that would also allow for, as each individual council member talks about what the chamber might have going on, other things of public interest that sometimes we don't have. Even tonight, we don't have everyone in attendance that we started with. So it would allow for the council members to, under council comment and council reports, provide a response if needed, but in all actuality allows them to talk about what the chamber is doing, what Decorah Jobs is looking at doing, to whatever report you have to give with a greater audience.
I think that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah, works for me.
because it's pretty much the public comment portion anyway, and basically that's what you're adding in there, is more public
Like
comment.
public
so-
comment,
Right.
council reports,
Right.
boom.
Before the consent agenda, before we get
Yeah.
into the actual meat and potatoes of the night.
Agenda.
Yeah.
No,
I think more people will hear what we say if we do that, that's for sure.
I think that's a good suggestion.
Then I
like
think
that.
we should pass this as it's written and maybe ask staff to express to the mayor that seemed to be the sense of the council in terms of the ordering of future agendas. Because the rule,
Well, it's in your.
is it in here?
Yeah, it is in the
so-
rules.
So I think that would be a simple amendment, though, or a motion
Mhm.
that you could do. In your council rules, under agenda sequence and order of business, number 8 is city manager, department head, and council reports. And if somebody wanted to approve the proposed changes to the rules with the additional change of moving, are you talking about moving all 3 of those, or just the council reports to before the consent agenda?
We could potentially move all of them.
I think move all of them, because especially when there's a closed meeting to end the session, it's often nice to have those reports before the meeting closes.
Right,
Agreed.
right.
So,
So like on this,
John, can I simply say so moved? And are we going to follow that? Where are we?
Do you want to have a motion to, so our rules you would move an amendment.
Yeah,
would
there
be
there
the
is a
second.
motion on the table. I just want to make sure we're
Right.
clear. So
Yep, there's a motion on the
right.
table.
I will amend that to add what John has just added into it.
So a motion
Yeah.
to amend.
All right, then
I second.
a second. All right, so I'm
Okay.
gonna
So,
write these down.
if you could
So you vote,
Please read back what we're voting on.
yes. So first you will vote on the motion to amend that adds moving the city manager, department head, and council reports to follow the public comment in order on the agenda.
Okay.
So first vote is the amendment.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, roll call, please.
Olson,
Aye.
Zittergruen, Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Miscelinich,
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye. Now
Then
we'll
we gotta-
vote on the changes for the rules.
Do we need a
Okay.
new motion for that then?
Nope.
No, okay.
You already had the
Had
motion on the table, so
Okay.
now you would have just, now you're voting on
On
that
just-
motion, that
yep.
includes the amendment.
Okay.
Further discussion? Roll call?
Olson,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Miscelinich,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, oops. Item 9, discussion on draft budget for year 26, fiscal year 26. Travis, give us a little background, please.
Yes, so as council may recall, at the end of our 4.5 hour long last budget work session, ended with this item would be on the agenda tonight, so that council had a time, you've heard the presentation, you've had time to fully absorb that draft budget. The changes that were expressed, such as removing the wayfinding from the capital improvements project as it was listed in the budget, and the non-funding requests, changing that to match council's desires. Are there other changes that you either want to see or want staff to explore? Again, I brought up that it's possible that we could use some cash reserve balances within individual funds to buy down the levy falsely, but that is kicking the can down the road. And so I wouldn't advise that. Right now, as it stands, the draft budget is a decrease in levy by about 10 cents, which as this was a non-reassessment year, so if you didn't have a construction project or anything that added additional value to your home, you should still see your tax obligation from the city decrease because it's a non-reassessment year.
I have a question about this wayfinding. We talked about that about 3.5 hours into that 5-hour meeting. Where we spent $50,000 a minute, we plan to spend $50,000 a minute. So I know that's a long meeting, but we were efficient.
We were
talked.
very
Yeah, it's a big job is my point, and that big jobs, it's okay if they take big meetings sometimes. I guess I'm curious what happens to wayfinding if the budget is passed as it is. I want to make sure that this doesn't just say, maybe we'll think about this the year following.
Right, so as I recall, the ending of that portion of the discussion was that staff would go and evaluate the best way to do a phased implementation, not with just a static dollar amount, but with actual desired destinations, like we would talk with the Chamber of Commerce and identify what are key points of interest we want to first address in our first phase of implementation, also focusing on the core and moving out, because as Aaron Detter, who presented the wayfinding plan, you can't start on the outside and start directing people without getting them all the way to that finish point. So you got to be calculated, start kind of centrally located within those interest areas and move outward. So my takeaway was staff was to work on a phased implementation targeted with specific sites that our partners believe to be key points of interest. We would then come back to council and say, okay, if we identify Ice Cave Road in Dunning Spring, and we identify Vesterheim as a key location, and we identify, I'm trying to pick something else more centrally located.
Downtown Decorah, Luther College.
Hotel
Yeah,
Inn.
let's say downtown Decorah in general, downtown. and we move, maybe a first ring out is 50,000. We would bring that to council and say, hey, we can get this done for 50,000. It would be, the plan from a staff perspective was this was a sustainable, a project that would meet our sustainability goals. And so we would use, again, these electric franchise fees that are sustainability funds. That's cash that we have. So the budget itself is a tool that generates property tax revenues. We can amend later on the road for cash on hand type expenses. So that is simply a budget amendment because it's not changing any revenue stream.
And staff does sense that the council still wants to keep pushing pushing this wayfinding project forward.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. I guess my other question is, you have often brought up the sort of the center in or the primary points, but then there's another sort of way to think about this, which is, where the majority of people who need wayfinding are, and oftentimes that's people on Highway 9 who report that they drive by Decorah but don't get directed downtown.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious, it seems to me like that's another discrete place where we could maybe get bang for our buck in terms of directing people downtown off of the highway.
Yeah, and that's a great example when you brought up downtown. That is one that, if we're focusing on the site specific, we might extend that one all the way out to the highways, or very similar to Ice Cave Road and Dunning Spring. That's, according to the chamber, that's their highest requested. Where is this? So that might be one we identify all the way out to the highways to direct people to the waterfall. And yeah, that concentric circle is more, maybe this is where our point of interest.
We're going to
focuses
identify the
are.
destinations
then
from
go-
the center out. We're not necessarily
Correct.
making the wife. Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Correct.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
We should just figure out the ones that Google doesn't take them to.
That would be Dunning Spring.
Right, that's
Ice
what I
Cave
mean.
Road.
I mean, it's like downtown Decorah. I
End up
mean,
on the other side and,
Siri, where's downtown Decorah? Bing.
Takes them there, just not through a way they can get there.
yeah.
Oh. See, she's so responsive.
She was offended.
Any further discussion? So our next step with the budget is,
All right, so grab that. Aside from, if council members want me to place it on as a placeholder on the next agenda, certainly can do that. But the next actionable item for the council's going to be not until March. That first meeting in March, March 3rd, we will set a public hearing for the proposed property tax levy. That's the information that gets sent to the county, and then the county auditor sends it out to every property tax payer in Winship County with the city's proposed levy. For our residents, it would include the city's proposed levy, the school, and the county. So March 3rd is the next actionable item we need to hit.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, item 10, vacancy on the Decorah Human Rights. Do we have a date? I don't,
Open until filled.
open till filled, okay. Item 11, city manager reports.
Key, right in the heart of Iowa legislative season, few bills I wanted to point out. I'm not gonna go into great detail, but thankfully there is one bill that was introduced 2 weeks ago that it has essentially died in subcommittee, but it would require cities move to primary elections, which means it's a partisan election. So that bill was introduced. It is sitting in subcommittee, and the chair has publicly stated she is not willing to advance this out of subcommittee. So, the only reason I do still bring it up is it could be reassigned to a new chair and could advance then. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest moving on that. Let's see. There are some discussions on property taxes down there, but last week it was largely the casino moratorium that was taking up a lot of the conversation in Des Moines, so not a lot advanced last week. So, that, there are two bills, one in the House, one in the Senate, nearly companion bills, I think slight differing language, that would allow cities to establish land trusts. While not discussed tonight with the Sunflower property, land trusts would be, I believe Ames is the only city in the state of Iowa that has one that exists on paper, not widely practiced here in the state of Iowa. So, but it is a model that I think is worth exploring. There is going to be another stormwater bill forthcoming this legislative session. Our understanding is that it's going to address some issues that the legislators see in last year's bill, kind of plug some holes. Not a complete redo. You picked up on it, plug some holes, stormwater. All right. I guess I'll end on that. That's it for me.
Good dad joke.
Yep, right?
Anything from the department heads? Okay, council, Christopher,
Nothing tonight.
Croy,
The only thing, I'll be out of town, or out of the country for the next 2 weeks. Anybody needs to get a hold of me, I'll still be available by cell phone or email, so other than that, no.
Stephen,
I've got nothing.
Cody,
Nothing tonight.
Emily?
I had another community conversation this past Saturday. So thanks to everyone who came. I had about 20 people. This one, the last one I had around 40, which was great. It's actually one of my favorite things to do as a council person. And I think I'll host another one at the end of the month. Other than that, just that's about all I got. So thanks, everybody. Oh, don't forget about Fireman's Ball is this Friday.
Friday
Yep.
night, yep,
Sadly gonna miss it. So, but yes, don't forget about the Fireman's Ball.
Gala.
Gala.
All right, I have nothing this evening. I will move to adjourn.